Hello and welcome to India's coolest online chat show, Chai with me, Lakshmi. Check us out at www.chaiwithlakshmi.in for fabulous webisodes, articles, recipes and tea destinations. And oh, there's a chai store where you can pick up this beautiful mug. We're also on Facebook and Twitter. That's facebook.com/chaiwithlakshmi, and you can tweet us on @chaiwithlakshmi. That's CHAIWITHLAKSHMI. And welcome to today's webisode. Today's conversation is on how sport influences personality development. Our special guest is Dr. Advani, who's got a PhD in sport and performance psychology. He is a mind coach to 7-time world champion Pankaj Advani and a host of other athletes, plus individuals like you and me. Sri, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Pleasure being here.
Tell me, what is the influence of sport and engaging in sport-related activities on personality development? And let's say, the example of children as they're growing up. What does sport have to do with how they become as adults?
So let's take the example of a typical child first, without sport. So what do? They get up, go to school, come back home, do their homework, maybe play a bit, and that's it. That's their day. End of the year, they have an exam for which they study throughout the year, or in most cases, a couple of days before. And that's it. So it's very one-dimensional. With sport, what happens is they get to explore different aspects of their personality. There is physical engagement. There's mental involvement. It can be emotionally very challenging. And sport in itself is a very spiritual experience, where you have to dig down really deep into the finest reserves of your potential to pull out a performance when you're trailing in a match, to come back and win it. When you go to an exam, you either know it or you don't know it. Whereas in sport, it taps into your creativity. When you know that you've got a tougher opponent, your mind starts working, looking for ways to win.
It's constantly multiple choice.
Absolutely. So, okay, if this is not working, let me try that. If this person is moving slow, let me capitalize on that. They're going and playing a tournament. And this tournament can be anywhere, so it's not familiar territory. So the adaptability, the playing conditions, weather, different opponents every time.
What about on the emotional development part? What about interpersonal skills? Is there a strong influence from sport over there as well?
Sure. So first, the emotional part, we're talking about handling pressure. Like, we've heard of kids having panic attacks or nervous breakdowns just for an exam. So can you imagine how tough children have to be to face an unknown opponent in a sport, in a completely different environment.
With a crowd watching them.
With a crowd. It just becomes so big that when they actually come to write exams, it's least of their worries sometimes. So that is, from an emotional part, yes, there's pressure and there is stress as well, because there are expectations. They go to the coaches training them, and now you have a nutrition coach, you have a sports psychologist, you have a physio, fitness trainer, you have the whole team of specialists that they go to. So they have their expectations to meet. Parents, huge role, and of course their own expectations. Interpersonal skills, definitely. In lower level tournaments, they don't have a proper structure in terms of referees and umpires. And very often it's the opponent's word against yours when it comes to making a line call, if the ball is in or out, if the shuttle is in or out. So how you negotiate in team, it's huge, the way you deal with your teammates. It definitely does improve the way you deal with people. The other aspect, time and stress management, they have so much to do. I know athletes who are up at 4 every morning and they go for practice. They have one session, then they're done by 8 or 9. They have breakfast, then they get into fitness, then they have a break, and then they get back into a second session.
That's if they're full-time athletes, and if they're not, you've got school or college.
Exactly.
Yeah, things at home, maybe other hobbies, friends.
Exactly. So there's only that much you can do in 24 hours, and your body needs rest, so you want to sleep well. So they start thinking, all right, what is really important to me? What would I want to do to make the most of the time that I have. Invariably, you'll see them making sacrifices when it comes to, whether it's watching a movie, going out for a social gathering, being with friends. So if they start realizing that sport has made them so much more
goal-oriented.
Yeah, goal-oriented, exactly. And so they start thinking on those lines, and they kind of think a little more long-term than for instant gratification. So that adds to their maturing process as well.
I guess also one of the things that will then happen is because you're trying to prioritize how you're spending your time, you also then start to think about what's priority for you, as opposed to, let's say, what's priority for your teacher in the classroom or for your parents or for your coach. You're able to see things much more clearly, much earlier in life, than you would if you hadn't put yourself through these situations, I suppose.
In every aspect, I think sport has a huge role to play for a person in terms of their overall development.
So Shri, if there is a young adult with a very young sibling, or a to-be parent or a young parent watching the show, what would you like to say to them as a sports psychologist?
Do them a favor and put them in a sport. Give them a racket. Tell them to go into the pool. Don't do the disservice of getting them a gaming console, which can lead to an undesired addiction, or exposure to too much television, which is stimulating, no doubt, but not value adding. Take them out there. Just put them in any sport. Whether it becomes a career path or not is secondary, but at least to keep them involved in something that can bring out the best in them as a human being. Please, I strongly urge for you to put them in a sport.
Well, it was great having Dr. Shri Advani on the show, and I think sport is not just for children and young adults, it's also for you and me, because I think A, it'll make us fitter, B, it'll help us manage stress, and C, there'll be things you'll learn in the game that you love that you can apply in other spheres of your life. Thank you for joining me on this episode.